What up, my friends? Day 117, no excuses, 2024, year of the warrior. I'm just about getting out of here, per usual. Got all kinds of stuff going through my head, about anger and, lashing out. But I have so I got locked up back in 2005. I had a distribution case I was out on bail for. I was selling drugs still, getting fucked up. Anyway, long story short, my friend's wife, who was thrown out of his house, he asked me if she could stay at my house. And I was like, yeah, of course, And so there was like a freak out. She knew what he and I did for a living. She tried to set him up. She had stolen an ounce of cocaine off of me, put it in his trunk, called the cops. When they fingerprinted the bag, it was nothing but her fingerprints on it. So they dropped that case and all this stuff. So I was like, hey man, you can't be doing that shit. You got to get out of here. Yada, yada, yada. She called like cops on me. Ambulance came because they said I was fucked up. I went to the hospital. They're like, you're fine. And they let me go. So I went back home and I'm like, yo, pack your shit and get out, And so she's yelling at me, this and that. And I'm like, look, just get your shit and get the fuck out of my house. So I turn around, I go to walk away. Jumps on me, rips my face, and, But, I'm a big dude. I'm over 6 feet tall. I was 3 times the size of her. So when I hit her back, it did more damage than what I planned, I guess. She just freaked her out. And, it was a good open hand slap and whatever. That's neither here nor there. But so I was already out on bail. So they revoked my bail. Had to go to jail. Yada, yada, yada. Down the road, I got 2 years for the distribution case. And then I got 2.5 with a year to serve for the battery case, right? And so, I ended up doing 11 months on the year I had to serve. The things were concurrent, so they were running at the same time. I had to do this 40-week domestic violence anger management program. And when I was in there, I got out, I signed up for the program. I'm on parole, blah, 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 blah. So I go to the program and, it's weeks and weeks. We're probably like 15 weeks in. And, they ask everybody in the group. There was probably about 20 of us, one female, the rest were all males. And they were asking us like, well, why did you do what you did? How did this happen? And everybody, myself included, was like, oh, I was fucked up. There was this, there was that, blah, 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 blah. Like each week one person would tell their story. Then at the end of everybody telling their stories, she was like, okay, so the vast majority, like, out of the 25 people, 20 people, whatever it was, 20 people, 19 and a half of you said that the only reason why you put your hands on someone else is because you were fucked up. And we were like, yeah, makes sense, yeah, of course. I can't control myself when I'm fucked up. And so she goes like this, she goes, okay, so how many drinks did you have before you put your hands on, whoever you put your hands on? Loved one, whatever, right? Friend, family. And people are like, oh, I had like 15 beers. I had like 20 beers. Oh, I had 8 shots. I'm like, I drank a bottle of Jack Daniels. They're like, okay. She goes, okay, so say it took you 15 beers before you put your hands on somebody. Yep. You go, okay, so how many beers, because you were out of control, right? They're like, yeah. It was, how many beers would it take you to molest a child? Now, when I heard that, because I'd been denying everything, I'd been like, yeah, she started it, there's this, that. I was a victim, right? I couldn't admit that, it doesn't matter what led to it per se, right? I'm a lot bigger, I'm a lot stronger, this and that. But anyway, she definitely shouldn't have did what she did, but anyhow, so once she said that, how many drinks does it take you before you molest a child? And everybody was like, oh, I would never, nope, I wouldn't, no, there's no fucking way. And she's like, yeah, but you just said that you had zero control over yourself because you had this amount of beers or this amount of drinks or this amount of drugs. So you didn't know what you were doing. You couldn't control yourself. And like that really hit home with me. I was like, whoa. I was like, fuck, I'd never do that, And so after that, it was about 15, 20 weeks, right? Because there was about 20 people there. I think each person did a week, and then we had a discussion. But, something clicked with me right then and there. And I was like, wow, And so I started opening up. I started being honest about my past and the things that I had done and, people I've hurt and the bullshit I was doing. And, I could finally admit it. And how's it going, boss? Good. And, so I was able to kind of get free of that, right? I was able to get free of that. And so I haven't put my hands on, a female or basically anybody else since then, right? So that was January 5th, 2005 when the incident went down. And it's been since then. It's been almost 20 years now. It's also been almost 20 years since I've been locked up and incarcerated. But my point is, until you get honest with yourself, like seriously, because it doesn't, you can lie to everybody else if you want, and you can even lie to yourself. I used to lie to myself so long and so much that I believed that shit, and I believed that I didn't have any control. Even when I'd get into street fights, with grown men like myself, I never thought that there was a moment between getting disrespected or embarrassed and then rage, right? Because I always say, like in my neighborhood, you couldn't show tears and you couldn't show fears, right? So everything was switched to rage no matter what. And I lived that way for a long time, but once I was able to get honest about that, don't get me wrong, I got into drugs, I got injured at work, ended up doing all these painkillers and blah, blah, blah. But I never, no matter how fucked up I ever got, I never put my hands on anybody again. I was accountable to myself. And really, when she said, how many beers or how many drinks does it take before you'll molest a child, I realized I was always in control. I was fully in control, even though I was using being fucked up as an excuse to be out of control. I thought I enjoyed that type of lifestyle, or at least I was in the habit of it since the 80s. And, I watched domestic violence in my house. I watched my mother get beat up, like bad. And also I got beat up pretty freaking bad as well from my stepfather, as did she. And so, like I said, it was easy, or I became conditioned to switch the fears and the tears into anger and rage. And that was way more respected in my circle, how, limited that was. And I kind of lived my life, I lived my life that way. Nothing was my fault. There was always a reason. And even now, there's a reason for the way I react or act, but like I don't overdo it anymore. I know that there's a meditation that also helped me to be able to see that there's a moment between embarrassment, because that's usually what it is. You get a hit to your ego and you're embarrassed in front of people, and then I'd lash out, So I'm not doing that today. I'm changing the way that I act. Even since then, I haven't put my hands on a woman or really anybody else since then. I haven't really had the need to. Other than when I was, head of security bouncing at these places. But even then, I'm just physically removing them. There were a couple times where I had got into some fisticuffs, but that was about it. But yeah, man, that's where I'm at today. Just what was on my mind. And, no excuses, 2024, day 117. I hope everybody's getting that. I hope you're doing well. Peace.